Hello, it's Teresa here. I hope you're all keeping well and you're all very, very safe wherever you are. Today I'm going to crack on very, very quickly. I just want to say big hello to everybody who's commented on Facebook and on YouTube, and great big thank you for all the support and the interest that there's been in our postcard challenge. There's been no end of people comment, not necessarily in the texts, but comment on what a fabulous idea that was and what a high standard of work. So once again, great big pat on you postcard artists, because it was fabulous. Thoroughly enjoyed it. So we need to come up with another idea. This project is going to be a little bit off the wall. Some of you will like it and others may not quite approve, but I approve because it's all about your personal interpretation of samplers and the 21st century. We're going to revamp the old style sampler and bring it right up to date to modern times, the 21st century. We have to look back just for a second to understand what we're going to do now. Okay, so we're looking back to history just for a second to see what we're going to do in the future. There's a beautiful collection of samplers in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. So I'm very fortunate because from a very young age I've been exposed to these beautiful textiles in that magnificent museum in South Kensington in London, and I think that's informed my love of textiles and art. Well, I know it has, from a young age. Luckily enough, a lot of our school trips as young children were to the London museums and boat rides along the Thames, so that is why London excites me. It really does, and I just love it. But then I'm biased. What can I say? I'm biased. In the Victoria and Albert Museum there's about 700 samplers, and the earliest one is from the 1400s. Now, it's thought that the really earliest one was found in Germany. I haven't got the details exactly, but it's thought that that could possibly be the earliest one. But I think that dates from the 1600s, so I'm not sure here about why that's considered to be the oldest, when there are those in the V&A, Victoria and Albert Museum, that date as early as 1400s. But anyway, that's for another lesson and not this one. But sampler, I'm just going to throw this in because it's something I know and I'm out to impress you all with this. The English word sampler derives from the Latin word exemplum. I hope I pronounced that properly. Or the old French term exemplaire. So I just threw that in because that's something that I've always kept in the back of my mind. Now, the idea of the sampler was they would sort of designed, if you like, or they started way before print, and it was a way that embroiderers, which were normally young girls, are learning the niceties of needlework, because they were going to become these wonderful housewives, and that's where needlework was put. It wasn't such an art then, it was more of a craft. So needlework, okay, it's debatable, but there you go. We'll stick to the historical facts for the time being and then argue about it over coffee. Now, so what they did, they used a variety of stitches, and to record the stitches they did these samplers, and on the samplers there's normally the alphabet, figures, a name and a date, and some have borders. The earlier ones just have single motifs. So that is a sampler, basically to record stitches, to look pretty. I did this in 1999. My initials TM there. I was married then, and my last initial was M. And because I was happily married, I spent ages on this to hang on the wall. And of course, this really happy marriage resulted in divorce. So I looked at this and I thought, well, what do I do with this? Should I unpick that? Because I then went back to my maiden name and put an O there. And I thought, no, because this is historical. This is a sampler in its true sense, because that now has my history on there. But anyway, apart from that, I was saying that some of the samplers, especially the earlier ones, maybe around about the 16th century, had individual motifs on there, and they were mostly to decorate church linen, funnily enough. But some of you might remember this from a leaf project that we did. Whoa, it might have been one of the COVID projects. Now this is a sampler as well, and I worked this some years ago, around about the time of this, on canvas. There's a canvas behind, in canvas stitches. It's a sycamore leaf, so every little bit here is worked, every section is worked in a different stitch. There's a plique here, a plique there, and the background has been a plique. This side in velvet, that side in a pure woolen fabric. So there are many ways of doing your samplers. So there we go, those are my examples of samplers. I want you to get your coffee, put your feet up, relax, and please, please, please enjoy this. Now, to bring it right up to date for the 21st century, I've decided to completely change the shape, get away from the square and the rectangular samplers, and I'm going to do it a round one. Now I have to admit, I have never seen a round one, so this is going to be a real learning curve for me too. It's the first time I've done a round one, so we can work this together. I've used a square of old dressmaking fabric, and this is roughly about a 13-inch square, just roughly. Okay, now I found a nice round shape here. It's actually a colour wheel, so I'm just going to place that on what I'm calling the backing fabric. Now I'm using the wrong side of this fabric because it doesn't matter really, it's just going to be hidden up anyway, but this is so bright that if I do decide to use perhaps a light fabric, the backing might just change the colour slightly of the fine fabric. So to avoid that, I'm using the background, which is a little bit muted but not much. Because the outline will be covered up, I'm just going right the way around here with a pen. I have got the fabric pens, they're actually pencils, they're actually there, but I want something a bit more sturdier than those that definitely won't come off. Right, let's have a look. I'm not going to stick to the circle shape inside. I'm just going to lay down my pieces as you would in patchwork, something of that nature. Now I've just taken out a handful here. Some of these you will have seen from our slashing project and the ruffle project. Others might be quite new to you, but it doesn't matter. What I do, I just want the small pieces, but I think I'm planning on just taking them random. I'm just going to pick them at random. Now I'm going to extend over the line by possibly up to an inch. I don't think I'm going to take it further than an inch. It might be 1/4 of an inch, or it might be 1/2 an inch. Whatever you feel happy you're doing. So I'm just going to extend it over, and I would think that is possibly maybe the best part of an inch. Now I'm going to put a pin in it. So where are these pins? Hopefully these aren't the bendy pins. So I'm going to cover this all the way around. Now I'm not worried about the edges at all. I'm not worried about the rough edges here. Oh, I've got two there. I'm just going to make sure the circle's covered. So by doing that, you're following the shape of the circle. So here it's on by putting a square there, it's going to be about 1/2 inch, but as you come round the circle, that's going to increase to probably 1.5 inches or 1.25 inches. That's okay. So just going to pop that there. Oh, so that's done. It didn't take very long. Now what I'm going to do is just pop this on to make sure that it's fully covered. Yeah, it's a bit close there. No, everywhere else is okay. Now I'm just going to mark it, gently mark it around here. Just very gently go across here. And this will give me a guide about where to stop. Right, it's very, very fine. In fact, I can't see most of it. I just get part of it from just there. Oh, I've got some round there, little bit there. So I've got the basic round there. I can see it's going all the way round here. Move that up and down here and all the way round. That's lovely. Now the last one I did, the demonstration one, it was all done by hand. This time I'm going to do it by machine. As I said, I'm bringing it up to the 21st century, so I'm going to hold some of these down by a very small stitch. Now you don't have to do it this way. You can skip this and just move on to the next part where we go back to hand sewing. But I just want to see how this is going to work out, bearing in mind, as I said, I haven't done this before, and the last one was all done by hand, and this bit was done by hand as well, the tacking bit. Now this time I'm going to use the sewing machine more or less as tacking, but it will stay in. But I'm not worried about keeping it neat or anything. It is just, let's call it an experiment to see what happens when we abandon all the hand stitching or part of it on here in favour of a little bit of technology as sewing machines. So if you don't want to do this, or you haven't got a sewing machine, it doesn't matter, because this can be done by hand. And I'm just going to sew down these and catch them on the edge, okay, all the way round with probably a large stitch. So that is where I am at the moment, and that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to sew all the way around the edge first, and that'll hold it down in place for when I do the next part, and when I do the hand sewing, it just makes a nice neat edge. So the sewing machine has been done. I haven't gone round all the shapes, but I've held them down, as I said, and acted as if it's treated it like it's tacking. So the shape is still there. I can see the outline shape all the way round, and now this has made it a lot easier to work with. You can see the edges that are sticking over or extending past, which will be needed later to turn back. Now at the same time as I'm making this one on the screen, I'm also making one in parallel or in tandem off screen, and this is it here. And I just want you to see how I've broken up and sectioned the stitches. Each block has its own set of stitches. We can actually see the stitching. You can call this what you want, long stitch, boho, slow stitch, whatever you want to call it. It's just a derivation of running stitch really, but it has taken on an awful lot of new names, as you know, or names I should say. Some of them are steeped in tradition. Now you can see the long stitches here all the way across here, and these stitches, they go right the way across. So if I turn that round, you'll be able to see all the long stitches going this way. They're spaced about ½ an inch. I think you can just see here where I am. They're spaced about ½ an inch apart. They go from top to bottom all the way across the work. So that is the next thing to do. I'm going to do the long stitch, slow stitch, whatever you wish to call it, all the way across. Okay, so the whole of the background of our new piece will be covered up. Now I'll start from, well, any part really of the outer circle or the circumference, any part of that, and I'll just make long stitches all the way across. First of all though, I think a good iron or a good press is in order, so I will start this after I've given it a really good press. And that's it. So this has been worked with 3 strands of embroidery thread. The next part I'm going to work with the whole 6 strands of thread, so I won't be stranding it at all. And that now is the front, the background fabric. So we've made the background fabric now. It's time now to start decorating it. I'm going to over sew around some of the shapes. Well, this has been over sewn actually with blanket stitch, or what else did I do? Some herringbone stitch here, along here, cross stitch, and just plain over sewing here. So I think I'm going to do exactly the same stitches, stick to the 4 stitches. So that was cross stitch, herringbone, blanket, and just plain over sew stitch. I'm going to do that first, so I shall outline some of these, or probably all of them, in one of those 4 stitches. Now I did say just a minute ago that I've using 6 strands of thread, so right through there, right through my nice long needle. And this needle is probably just a bit too long for this task, but it's just so nice and cozy to hold that I'm prepared to put up with that. Right, so where shall I start? I'm going to start, I think I'll start along here. So I'll start with blanket stitch. I'm going to start this side. So blanket stitch is a lovely, lovely stitch, and I'm taking it from one side over to the other side, just like so. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. I'm sure we all know what blanket stitch is. So I'm going from over to this side on the right, little distance, and then I'm coming back in and under the first side, and that's on the left, keeping my thumb there and just gently pulling it like that. And I'm just going to repeat that over, keep my thumb on the thread here, keep that down, the needle over to the right side, underneath both pieces of fabric, and then bring the needle up, and there we go. So this is the first stitch that I'm going to use. The oversew stitch literally is just from one side to the other. Herringbone we have done before numerous times, and the other one, cross stitch, we've also done the cross stitch as well, but I'll probably add a little demonstration for those when I get to those stitches. But just for the time being, I'm going to carry on just over sewing the edges together, Now you will come up against some of these long stitches here. That doesn't matter, you just go over them. You can go over them, or if you prefer you can go under them or around them, but I think I should just be going over them. This is such a beautiful stitch to do, I don't want to stop. You can vary the size, you can do the stitches as big or as small as you wish. No prescription for this, it's all about how you feel, how you handle the needle and the thread, and what you prefer. If you prefer the larger size stitch to make a bold statement, or you might prefer something smaller and daintier. But anyway, on that note, I'm going to carry on with this and just over sew as many little seams as I can. Over sewing, just a straight stitch. Over sewing, just a straight stitch from one side to the other, right across the join, side by side. Oh, excuse me. I'm going to lay them side by side like this, right over the long stitch. There we go, and that's a nice stitch to do. You could place them closer or you could distance them a bit more. It's entirely up to you and the effect that you want. So the third stitch we're going to do to connect or neaten the edges is cross stitch, and I have a feeling that everybody's going to know how to do this. So in from the back, always knot your thread because that isn't going to notice. Then we're going to take it slantwise. You can see that it's a slant across like this. Bring your needle out at a distance but underneath where you went in, and just pull it, keeping your thumb on the thread so not to knot it. There's the first leg, and all we're going to do is cross that now and bring it out at the same point as that, where these two meet. That is the point we're bringing it out, and that is your first cross stitch, and that is beautiful. So I'm just going to go along here, and this will close up any little gaps we have. As you can see there, that is gaping, so just going to go along there, close that up, right over the long stitch and in there. There we go. And I like this stitch so much that I'll probably use it several times. So that is cross stitch, and the last stitch to do will be herringbone stitch. But I'll just get this out of the way first. Right, so herringbone looks very similar to cross stitch. Right, I'm starting outside the edge of the circle, starting at the bottom. You might like to start at the top, but you can start at the bottom. You're going over crosswise like the cross stitch, so you're taking this over here and you're just going to pick up a little bit of the fabric here. You're not making a cross stitch, so you're picking up a little bit of the fabric there and you're pulling that there. So you have one leg, the bottom leg there, with a little stitch just at the side of it. Then you're going to bring that down here, and you're going to keep the thread on the right, then pick up a little bit of thread there, a little bit of fabric there, like that, pull that, and then take it back and repeat the first movement. A little bit of thread there, and it is similar to cross stitch because the legs do actually cross, but you get the cross stitch at the tops and the bottoms of the stitch, and not in the center. There we go. So I should carry on with this. Now those are the 4 stitches that I'm going to be using to close up the seams. I've used the stitches that I said I would use. I don't think I've introduced any more. I've done the cross stitch, around here, buttonhole, sorry, not buttonhole, blanket stitch around here, herringbone, and there was another one, wasn't there? What was the, oh yeah, the over sewing stitches here. I've also just put a little bit of applique here and here, along there, and that seems to give it a nice round look. It follows the round, if you like. You can see here, you can still see the outline of the edge of the round shape, so it looks very scruffy at the moment. It has actually reached that scruffy stage already, which is quite early, but it has covered the whole of the round here, and what you can see here, the scruffy bits on the edge are just the overhangs. Now the next thing I'm going to do is work out the samples of stitches that I'm going to do. Each piece here, each little colour bit, not that bit because that actually belongs to that, each of these little shapes will be done in a different stitch. So there's going to be quite a few stitches on there. Maybe I might need to repeat some, but this will be the sampler. This will be the sampler here, and the stitches will go on each of the shape. Different stitch for each block. So I'm going to start with just a simple chain stitch. Now, so I'm going to do the chain stitch here, and I'll just start off here from the back to the front, and then go back into the same hole there. We come down a little way, as long as you want. Hold this thread down with the thumb and then just pull the needle through, and there is the first chain, and then you repeat that all the way along. I need to pull that a little bit tighter there. So second stitch goes back into where you came from, and exactly the same, you hold the thread down and pull it through. Now what I haven't done here, I haven't changed the thread from 3 strands to 6. I've been doing these in 3 strands, so now I need to change the thread and make these 6 strands. So all the stitches, sample stitches, will be worked in 6 strands. So I'm going to carry on with this now. I should probably pop that out to make the strands thicker, and then I'll carry on with that, and I'll get back to you when I've got something nice, I hope, to show. Well, I have something to show you, but I'm not sure how nice it is. It really is at the scruffy stage. I'm going to do a run through all the stitches that I've used, and there's not that many actually, and they're stitches that we've all done in the past, and they're actually in the stitches book. If you remember, some time ago we did a stitches book. We did 2 of them actually. I'm going back now a couple of years, and mislaid them in my packing boxes, but just a quick brief reminder. I might put the link to this up as well. So this is a stitching book, like a bit of a reference, and the other one is as well, the second one. So I have used that for this as well. Now I trimmed, as you can see, it looks a bit different around here. I've trimmed the excess off all the way around, because the red background here, or the red ground here, was actually interfering with my use of colours on here. It was impacting too much, so this was not a good idea to use such a strong colour, especially multicolours as well, because it was having an effect on my colours inside. Now I've also made this window the round window because, as you know, this is going to be round. I'm moving away from traditional sampler with this one, so this is purely experimental and bang up to date, 21st century, I hope. So I'll just run through these, the stitches. So what have we got here? Straight stitch here, straight stitch with 2 straight stitch arms, single chain here, raised chain band there, a beautiful stitch that one is. So we have over sewing there, more raised chain band there, feather stitch, one of our staple stitches, twist stitch chain. Now that is a beautiful stitch, and that one actually looks like a hard stitch to do, but believe me, it isn't. It's an absolute joy, and that one is easy. It's minimum effort for maximum impact, if you like. Same with raised chain band, looks really difficult, but once you've mastered it, it's lovely. Now what else have we got? We've got single fly stitch there, looking like Y's, single fly stitch, and have I put them together anywhere? Ooh, is anybody shouting out? Yes, there it is, there it is. I thought I'd had a row of them. Maybe that was next on the agenda. I'm not actually going to fill these in at the moment because I have an idea for some areas. As I said, this isn't finished. I need to put some beads on these, maybe there. And I have an idea for bringing it up to date. At the moment, stitches used quite traditional. So apart from it being round, there isn't much there really that suggests 21st century. Maybe this, that's machine sewn. Okay, so that is very up to date, if you like. The sewing machine that I've used, up to date. But I'm going to carry on now. I'm not sure if there's anything else there that I've used that I can't say. Herringbone, single chain, fly stitch, feather stitch, raised chain band, straight stitch, twisted chain. I think that's all. I'm looking at a list here, so that's why I'm not actually remembering it. It's just on the list. Now, this next part, I'm just going to run through how to do each of these stitches. Now, so you don't have to listen to me waffle on about the stitches, I'm just going to demonstrate it all in one go, tag it on here, all in one go, and then I'll add some music. Okay, so that is... Well, I hope you enjoyed that little break away from my voice. If I can quickly remind people that the reason I use the big needle, the wool and hessian, it's so that you can see the stitches on the screen. We've had so many new people recently, you might not know, or you might be wondering why I'm doing the embroidery with such a big wool, such a big needle and the wool, and that's the reason. With this part here, I've just started the beading, and I'm going to place the bead on each end of the feather stitch. So if you can see what I'm doing here, I'm just adding a bead to each frond, each leg or arm. I've already done it on the blue one, place the beads there, and it adds lots of texture and it catches the light and it just makes a really nice finish. And I really like this effect. It doesn't take too long. I'm using 2 strands of thick sewing cotton, so this isn't embroidery thread that I'm using or floss. It is actually sewing cotton, machine sewing cotton, in a nice needle. The needle has to be fine enough for the bead to slip over and down to the point, but it is a lovely task. So you can see here now I've just come into the end. I'm securing it on the back very, very tightly because we don't want them undoing, do we, as has happened before. I'm just going to straighten this out, and now you can see better, now all the stitches are in place, that the rich texture that's being shown, or sorry, that's being provided, and the wonderful colours. Now this part, I'm just going to take out some labels from some clothes I have. Just going to snip them out, and they are clothes where I don't use the labels as hooks. Most of them there have the ribbons on the shoulders, but it's surprising the amount of pretty labels on the clothes. Now this one I particularly like because it sort of sums up so far the 21st century, late 20th century. Although cavemen had tech, they used to draw on the cave walls with stones, so that was pretty high tech for them. Now these strips here I've taken from the selvage edge of fabric. It's digital fabric, so I imagine the numbers refer to some sort of digital template, maybe. I'm not too sure. So I've taken the names off because, as mentioned before, all samplers tend to have names on them, names of the embroideress, the person or embroiderer, of the person who's executed the sampler. So our samplers too need names. If you've got the time, or you've got a sort of printing machine, or you sit and hand embroider your own name, you could do that, or even put someone else's name on it if you're going to gift this to them. But I was lucky because there are numerous ideas for inspiration just on this one strip of fabric. Now I am putting the names, numbers, alphabets or letters I should say, did I say numbers? Yeah. I'm going to put the traditional things on my 21st century samplers, as would have been on them in previous times. Obviously there's a difference because that is what I want. I definitely want these to be updated. Even the background fabric once would have been linen or cotton. My background fabric is polyester. Now I'm going to pop these down, and I want to space them so they actually do form a composition, so they pull everything together, so the eye will actually bring them all together. Whereas in years gone past, most of the samplers that I looked at would have been linear, going across from left to right. I don't really want that, but I still want them to be to have a nice be comprehensive, if you like, so the eye travels naturally from one point to the other. Now I'm going to put them down with oversew stitch or cross stitch, maybe, or even just running stitch. A small running stitch around them looks nice, and that secures them. As you can see, I'm dithering now. I'm not too sure where to put this. I need to put one down first, which I have done, I think, with this one. So I've gone back to the sampler that I did in 1999 here, just to have a look and see if I've covered the main elements of a sampler, and the elements being letters, the alphabet, numbers here, which are in pink. They're very, very faint on the screen, but we have the letters 1 through 5, 6 through to 0. Another alphabet, lowercase alphabet, as opposed to the uppercase here, and we have it signed, or the initial letters, or it could be a name and a date. So we have the elements there of a sampler, and most, or not most, but some have a border pattern. So I kept checking back on this to make sure I'm getting the elements, those couple of things. Now, as I said at the end of the last video, I'm now going to run the square sampler, which was unfinished at that time, with the current one, which we've been doing together on the screen. So I'm going to remove this and show you now them finished. So unfortunately I did make a little film between the last video before the transition, you know, the blurry transition that merges one piece of film to another. Unfortunately the internet went down because of work people, the male variety, in the garden, in the street outside. So the internet did go down. I didn't quite realise that until I came to edit it, and there's nothing there. But I don't think I've missed too much. The point is that this is now finished. Now I'm going to go through this again, and I think I might need to just pull back a bit so you can see it. There we go. Right, I'm going to move it down just a bit to get it on the screen. So this is my interpretation of a sampler for the 21st century. We have an assortment of stitches on the background, and I can't remember how many stitches there were, about 6, 7 stitches that I used, and I kept just repeating those stitches. On this one, each block has its own set of stitches, so each block is separate here. Now you may be looking at that thinking, ooh, isn't that a QR code, and what are these funny labels doing here? Well, as I said, this is bang up to date with the 21st century. So we have the lettering. We have the lettering here, all the letters, not in alphabet sequence, but letters here. Oh, this one's just got the letters here. It has the letters there, but that's for a different reason. So bang up to date here. We have 100% cotton, and I don't know what this means at all, but we have another 100% there. So there's the letters. Here we have some numbers. All samplers have numbers on them. Once again, not in numerical order, but hey ho, this is up to date. And then I thought, well, what sort of little motifs can I put on here that says 21st century? Well, what better than looking towards consumerism? And I don't want to get political here, but how up to date is this little barcode? And it actually works. It's for Slazenger. I took this from the back of my sports t-shirt, cut it off, put it down, and this actually works on here. So that is bang up to date. And this as well, it's from another t-shirt, and it's a fair trade tag certifying that the fabric used is cotton. Here we have a name, because samplers are named and they're dated. So here there's a little date here, printed date. This was from the edge of some fabric. This is where the name Sophie came from, here on the edge of some fabric. And on another piece of fabric it was actually dated 09/04/2019. So we have everything on this apart from the border, which the border could be done around the edge, but I'm finishing this one here because I'm not too sure at the moment what is happening with it, whether I'm going to leave it like this or whether I will make it up. At first I thought I would make an envelope. I have backed it, and I thought just an envelope, maybe like this. So that would be the back. So that is one possibility that I might do later, make that into an envelope. Now the other one that we've been working on is here, and I wanted once again to bring it into the 21st century. Now a lot of samplers that you see, well, I think all samplers maybe, that you see in the museums, art galleries or wherever, are square or rectangular. So I thought, right, I want to do the opposite of that. I'm going to turn it circular. So circular. Once again, as with the sampler I've just shown you, let's make that a bit smaller. I've done basically the same with the letters. I've got fashion, a name, Petula, figures down here. Very sweet little cross stitch, home sweet home. I liked that. And these are once again labels from dresses and clothes. We have made in Italy there. Crisp with a K. I'm not sure what that is. I can't even remember which garment I cut that from. Fashion. And how up to date are these two? Once again, it's the QR scan. And Tech UK. How 21st century is that? So those are now finished. This one, I will possibly back this on this backing fabric here, this black. Maybe make it square like this and mount this one. I did back this on some spare Ada here, and I know cross stitches will be it was I was given some Ada, lots of it, and I thought this is just ideal for stiffening as well. And I'm not a great, I love cross stitch, but I don't spend my time doing it, so I have used that, and I'm very appreciative to the person who gave it to me, because it got me out of a little sticky situation with this. So there they are. Now I hope you enjoyed that, the update of the sampler to 21st century. It's another interpretation. It's all about how we as individual artists interpret something. So your interpretation samplers in the 21st century will be or could be completely different to this. But do have a think about it. If anybody wants to take this further in the Facebook group, then do put it down in the Facebook group and we'll see what we can do, okay? And I think that'd be great fun. But I'm going to leave that all to you, Facebookers. If you think you'd like a little task, a little challenge, me included, oh, don't forget me, then yeah, we'll move on and do that. So on that note, have a go, and I know there will be a couple of you who will have a go, and I look forward to seeing all that. Now, wherever you are in this strange old world at the moment, please take care. Okay, just watch where you're going. Let's not panic, but just take care and keep safe, okay? So big hugs to you all, and thank you for watching. And when I get round to it, I will get onto Facebook and have a decent discussion, okay? So take care, everybody. Thinking of you all.